This is Eric from Pack Hacker, and today we're going to be taking a look at the ULA Dragonfly 30-liter backpack, which I've been testing for the past 2 weeks. Let's dive in. So starting with just the overall look of this backpack here, ULA actually stands for Ultralight Adventure Equipment. So this pack is designed to be able to go on any adventure. And it comes in 3 different materials. There is an X50 and a VX21 X pack, and there's also Robic nylon. So depending on what your needs are and what your preferences are, there is probably an option for you. And there's a bunch of different colorways and stuff like that on the site. And it's also changing. You know, when we first saw this pack and we were interested in it, there's different colorways than there are now. So it's nice to see that they're, switching things up and keeping things fresh. But as you can see right now, there are a few spots on it because in the past 2 weeks, I've been cycle commuting to work with this every single day, about 80 miles of cycle commuting. So as you can see, there are a few spots on it, and I did clean it up. It cleans up pretty easily just with a sponge. If you use a paper towel, this material really likes to accept the little flakes from the paper towel. There's still a few left. I'm not sure if you can see those, but it does really like to pick those up. So if you have anything that's kind of flaky, like a piece of paper towel, it's going to pick those up. But moving on to the zippers here, every single zipper on this, on the exterior here, is a YKK AquaGuard zipper, which adds to the water resistance that this pack has. Just looking at the material from the beginning, it really doesn't look all that water resistant, but 2 days ago, riding to work, I got caught in what, not really a blizzard by Michigan terms, but it was snowing pretty hard, and there's lots of slush on the road. And when I got to work, it was covered in snow, and everything on the inside was still dry, and you could see the little water droplets stuck on the outside. So, 30 minutes in pretty harsh weather and getting splashed by cars, it handled it very well. And I got caught in the rain last week, more of kind of like a freezing rain, and it did well there too. So the zippers and the material here are doing their job. One thing about the zippers that I think is important to note is they are a little slow sometimes, especially when it's fully packed. I've got it completely packed here. So as you can see, it's very, very stuffed. So opening the zippers is a little slow because there isn't really a tab to grab onto. You can use this attachment loop down here and it kind of assists with it. But when you're coming down this way, there really isn't anything to grab onto. And it's completely stuffed full right now, so it is a bit slow. This isn't really a pack I was getting in and out of all the time, so it wasn't a huge deal. But if you needed something quick or you wanted to zip it up and go, you're not really going to be able to do that. We also have this webbing on the front here, which is nice to put, a sweatshirt, or if you went swimming and you don't want to put the wet swimsuit in your bag, you can put it in this webbing. Obviously, when the bag is fully packed, you don't have as much leeway. It's almost completely loose here, as you can see, and there's not that much leeway. But I did shove a wet sweatshirt in there one day, and I rode my bike home with it, and it didn't fall out. So that is a nice plus. Another great aspect of this pack are the side pockets here. I'm a big believer in quality side pockets that you can fit big water bottles in. And this one here, normally you would not even dream of fitting a full-size tripod in here. But as you can see, this is not a travel tripod. This is a full-size tripod that we've got shoved into this side panel here. It can be a little difficult to get it out because, as we said, it is a regular tripod, not a travel tripod, but this is a bulky tripod that we use here in the studio, and fits in the side pocket just fine. And if you don't have something in the other side pocket that is a similar weight, you can kind of feel it while you're wearing it. But as long as you have something of a similar weight in this side, it's not noticeable. On the other side here, to even it out, I've got this hefty hydro flask. It's a 32 ounce, and when this is completely full, it kind of weighs out with the tripod on the other side so that it's not lopsided or anything like that. But I've never owned a pack that could properly fit a hydro flask, a 32 ounce hydro flask, I should say. But this completely swallows it. Before I took it out, you couldn't even tell I mean, you could probably see that there's something in there, but that's a 32-ounce bottle that is completely swallowed by this pocket. And the reason that these pockets are able to do that is because they're a nylon and spandex blend. It's 94% nylon and 6% spandex. So it really does have a lot of stretch here, and you can shove a ton of stuff in there. And a nice little addition here is this little metal hole here. So if you put something that's wet in there, like the other day, Ahmad and I were out shooting, and we had a tripod that was wet from the snow because we had to put the feet in the snow. If you were to have that happen and you shove the tripod in here, feet first, and as the snow melts, there's a little hole for the water to get out, which is nice so there's not water pooling in there and getting stuff wet. We also have that same material here in this front pocket, which is great for just shoving as much as you can into this front pocket. It does share space, like most bags do, with the main compartment. So you can't really have any push that way, but because it extends out, you can see my hand kind of rising out of there. You can fit a bunch more in here than you would be able to if it was the same material on the sides here. So right now I just have my little headband that I ride my bike to work with and my hat for if we go out while we're at work. If you don't have this as stuffed as I have it right now, you can fit more in there because it can kind of push into the main compartment a little more. When this wasn't completely full, I was able to put a long sleeve shirt in here, kind of rolled up, a bigger kind of thermal shirt, and slide it in there without any issues. But here, this YKK zipper doesn't have as much issue with being slow. Still nothing really to grab onto, but without having the little tabs that some packs have, this main zipper is slow. On these sides here, I should have discussed this when I was talking about the tripod, but we have these compression straps that also work to compress whatever you have in the side pocket down. So when we had the tripod in there, the tripod extended out, and it really wasn't going anywhere because of this elastic, but because of this little strap here, you can shove the tripod or whatever else you have in there. I know we've heard of people using ice picks and stuff like that, and there are trekking poles. You can put it in there, and then you can compress it. And when the bag is empty, so that the bag kind of, like the material isn't just kind of like flailing around, you really can tighten these down so that the bag doesn't look kind of like frumpy like some bags do when they're empty. But moving on to the back side here, we have a very capable back panel, and they have these S-designed shoulder straps. So the shoulder straps, as you can see there, do have that curvature, which kind of conforms to your body. They are pretty thick. They're a lot thicker than, I would say, most backpacks, and they're pretty rigid, so they're not really gonna conform so much to your body, but that S does, I guess, it conforms and it doesn't conform, if that makes sense. It's not gonna move with the, like your body, but it fits your body well. That might sound awkward, but when you put it on, you will know what I mean. We've got a bunch of these attachment loops here, which are great if you have things you want to attach on there. Like we have a little camera pod that attaches to our front that we tested before and we're talking about recently. We tested it on here and it worked just fine. We've got these D-rings here as well for if you want a little more security, because these are nice hard plastic. And then we've got these little pockets here that are that same nylon and spandex material we mentioned on the front. So they have a bit of stretch. Cliff bar goes great in here. And also if you have like a small compact camera that you want on your front, it slides in there nicely, and then you've got a little bit of protection from the elements there. Your phone may fit in there, but our phones that we have in the office were all too large to really fit properly. This is an iPhone 11 with a case on it, and you can kind of get it in there, but not, I mean, it's in there, but it's awkward. So not really an ideal fit. The back panel back here has both padding and aerated mesh. Obviously it's winter here in Detroit, it's not super hot, but a lot of backpacks when I'm cycling to work get warm because there isn't great aeration on the back here. And this pack does have great aeration, and it has the padding where you really need it. You've got that same aeration here. There's not as much padding on the shoulder strap, but there is a fair amount of aeration all the way up and down, which keeps it light, and there is a bit of padding in there, just not a ton. we do have a removable sternum strap here, and it's also adjustable. So if you see here, it just slides up and down. Some people aren't a fan of ones that slide up and down easily. It isn't a huge deal breaker for me on this pack because you kind of have to mess with it to get it to move. You have to kind of grab on to get it to move. It didn't move more than I wanted it to, and it's pretty easy to take it off as well. As you can see, there's these little gaps there that you just kind of peel it off. So it's not going to come off if you don't want it to come off, but it's not terribly hard to get it off either. So flipping over to the top here, we've got this very, very small top handle here. It's got a little bit of a plastic shrink wrap on it. It's not very comfortable, to be honest with you, when you hold on to it for even a short period of time. It kind of digs into your hand a little bit, but it's very light. Like, that's the point of a lot of the materials on this pack, are to be light, and it doesn't add hardly any weight with this tiny little strap. I do have a little hook at my house that I hang my bag on, and even when it was fully packed, I hung it by this, and the shrink wrap or the heat shrunk plastic has stayed in very good condition, and it also was able to hang all night long and didn't rip, so strong and secure. So we have a top pocket here, which again, similar to this, kind of shares the front pocket. It shares space with the main compartment. So depending on how much you have in the main compartment dictates how much you can fit in this top pocket. So right now I just have this little case that I keep my Bluetooth headphones in, and I also have this commuter wallet zip that I've been testing from Pioneer that both fit in there nicely, but when it's not completely fully packed, there really is, as you can see, a lot of room there. You could probably fit a tech pouch if you wanted in there, or a toiletry bag, depending on the size of your toiletry bag. But it does have a lot of space, and it has that nice AquaGuard YKK zipper, so you know anything you put in there is going to stay dry for the most part. We're going to go into the main compartment now, which I think is where this pack can really shine, because we do have this clamshell opening that enables you to really get at everything in this pack when it's lying flat. On this side here, we have these two, slide that over a little bit, we've got these two zippered pockets that have mesh. This mesh doesn't have any give to it, so it's not going to stretch or anything like that, but they're pretty sizable pockets, and they're great for offering separation between what goes in here and what goes in here. So anything you need more frequently, but maybe you don't want in the top pocket. Like right now, I've got my laptop charger in here, and normally I don't travel with this big laptop charger, but just to show you that if you needed to, this big and just oversized laptop charger fits in there. The nice thing about this pocket here is you do get that space up here, so this top pocket is bigger. Something to note is, like, I had that heavy laptop charger in there. When you do open it, it kind of slams down a little bit, and if you don't close this, your gear could fall out. And then in this smaller pocket, I've just got a USB-C to Lightning, and then this little pocket emulator. But these, like I said, these are great for offering separation, because as you can see here, this is a very large and in charge main compartment. So just to show what I would take if I was going on like a weekend trip or something like that, I always bring a camera and maybe a couple lenses. So with this pack, I've got this just average camera cube in here, but it is pretty big, as you can see. Pretty large enough to fit what I need to bring with me, and that takes up a lot of room, as you can see in the bottom of the pack. But even with that in there, I've got one large packing cube, and then these two medium or smaller size packing cubes that both fit in there really without having to stuff it too incredibly full. On the bottom here, we've got these two compression straps. So if there's something you really want to pack down, or if you kind of overpack and you need to shove a few more things in there, you can kind of compress some stuff down with these by, tightening them up, and then you can put more stuff on top. Up here, you can see this is the top pocket where I said that it shares the space. So right now, you can see how much room there really is in there. Here's a medium-sized packing cube. Fits in there with a little bit of room to spare. But as you can see, it takes up more room here. Get that out of here real quick. Close that up. There isn't much padding here between this main compartment and the laptop compartment. So if you had like rigid items with sharp corners and stuff like that, it could poke into your laptop a little bit. But if you pack correctly, or if you're using packing cubes, that isn't a huge deal. So we'll close this up and move on to the laptop compartment. The laptop compartment is almost kind of hidden. Like if you didn't know it was there or you weren't looking for it, you might not find it. It's actually on the back underneath this handle here. So when you open that up, this is a 15-inch MacBook Pro, and it fits in there with room to spare, as you can see. It says it fits up to a 17-inch laptop, and I believe that because of all that extra space there, and it slides down, and we've got, you know, about that far of extra room. We'll slide that over there. But there is, on the back side of this laptop panel, there is a little bit of extra padding here, and then you've got the back panel here, which adds that extra padding. And it's honestly surprising to me that when there's a laptop in there, you really don't feel it. I thought when I first tried this pack on that when you put it in there, you'd really be able to feel it and it would be uncomfortable. But because of this flat back panel and the way that they use the mesh and the padding on the back, I actually a few times when I was riding my bike to work was worried about whether I had my laptop, and I had to get off my bike because I didn't feel it and open the compartment to make sure it was there. So it is comfortable, and kind of shockingly so given how lightweight and just there isn't much padding there. You wouldn't think that that would have been the case, but very, very happily surprised by how comfortable it is with a laptop slid in there. So just going over a few things on the pack overall, we have noticed a few loose threads. Turn that out of the way. None that I can pick out right now, but just in going over the bag and examining it, we have noticed a couple loose threads, and nothing that really looked like it was detrimental to the bag itself, but it doesn't look great, and like even just on some of the stitching, there's like little furries and stuff like that. You can see those there that I don't think are going to cause any issues with the bag itself, but from a look standpoint, it's not ideal. Something else we haven't covered totally, we covered it a little bit here, is these attachment loops. There are attachment loops in a lot of different places on this pack. You know, you've got this running along the bottom here. You can see a little bit of salt that kind of got ingrained into that fabric. But there are attachment loops everywhere. So, you know, it is an adventure bag. It's to be whatever your adventure is, whether that's going through the city, going up a mountain, you know, doing whatever you are going to do with it. So these attachment loops really enable you to add things to it as you need, or they're just there if you don't need them. These ones on the bottom here, if you have a larger tripod or you're using both your side compartments for water, you could, you know, use carabiners or clips or something like that to attach your trekking poles or a tripod or a travel tripod or something like that. And we went over these ones on the back here too. It's just a nice inclusion that I think really makes this pack a true adventure backpack to enable you to go the extra mile, even maybe when you weren't expecting to when you started the trip. So there you have it, the ULA Dragonfly 30-liter backpack. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel. We'll catch you in the next one.